Your husband is into Mousetrap YouTube. He tells you about it soon after he wakes up. You ask, what is Mousetrap YouTube? And he says, it is what it sounds like. You just have to see it. So he brings out his phone and shows you a video. There is a bucket in a barn with some peanut butter on the inside. Mice try to get to the peanut butter and they extend themselves too far and they fall into the bucket. Around 10 mice fall in this way. The trap is shockingly effective. If you want it lethal, the man in the video says, just add some water to the bottom. The video stops and your husband puts his phone away and looks at you. It really works, he says. Isn't that crazy? On some level, you feel sick, though you find it difficult to explain why. You don't begrudge the YouTube man his bucket trap. He seems nice enough, and besides, you have called exterminators in the past and didn't feel guilty about it. Someone's got to do the work, you think. You are afraid of mice. That's just it. Isn't it? You are afraid of mice. You are not just afraid of their skittering and their speed. You are not just afraid of them pissing and shitting in your food. You are not just afraid of their tiny bodies and the spaces they could occupy. No, you are afraid of mice. And because of that, you are also afraid of dead mice, empty mice, mice with limp bodies, mice with lost memories. Why is your husband into this stuff, you wonder? Perhaps you would understand if you lived in the country and had an old infested barn, but you don't. You live in an apartment 5 stories up. Thankfully, it has always been mouse-free. You think that perhaps your husband is a psychopath. He has always struggled with insomnia, and you realize that he could do anything in his late hours. What videos does he watch that he does not tell you about? Usually, when you wake up in the morning, your husband is still sleeping, his body silent and motionless next to you, his beautiful face cradled in rest. At times like this, it is as though he never got into bed, as though he miraculously appeared there at some unknown hour. Occasionally, you look at him and think to yourself, this man is a stranger, this man is a stranger, I have never met this man. Why do you like these videos, you ask? Well, he says, you didn't seem into it, so I didn't want to show you more, but these traps are so weirdly designed, like they're interesting. Your husband is into Mousetrap YouTube. He is not a tourist. He did not see one strange video that he felt compelled to show you. He is a connoisseur of the genre. Later that night, you are in bed and he is spooning you. You are on your phone and in the corner of your eye, you see another Mousetrap video. Let's watch this, you say. He chuckles. Why? I don't know. You put on the video. The Mousetrap man is showing off what he calls the walk the plank trap. Again, there is a bucket, and on top of the bucket is a piece of wood with some food on the end. The wood is unstable so that when the mouse puts its weight on it, it collapses straight to the bottom. There is something elegant about this trap, you have to admit. When you think of mouse traps, you think of what you saw in Tom and Jerry, spring traps you now know to call them. The mouse nibbles on some food and then gets thwacked and killed by a bar of metal. These work, of course they do, but they have their downsides. Spring traps are very violent and loud. Setting one up is perilous. You risk thwacking your own thumb. And if you have pets or children, they could get hurt. In any case, spring traps seem downright ridiculous to you now. Each mouse to his own trap, his own metal, his own killing. Why bother? The bucket will do. Because your husband is spooning you, you cannot see him, and because he does not speak or move, you cannot hear him, and so you are left to imagine his reaction. Has he seen this video before? Is this all boring to him now? Or is he mesmerized, electric, or his eyes glued to the screen? These videos have millions of views, but for a moment you imagine that your husband is the only man who has ever seen them. The Mousetrap man looks at your husband and says, "What an incredible mouse-trapping device," and your husband agrees and smiles without a word. You realize you are in the middle of something here. You are an intruder. When that video ends, you wordlessly put on another. If your husband is surprised, he doesn't express it in any way. His body hardly moves, though you can hear his breathing and know that he is awake. This new video is about the rolling log trap, one of the Mousetrap man's absolute favorites. The trap is wonderful. A bucket with a metal log on top. When the mouse goes into the middle of the log to eat peanut butter, it spins, and this causes the mouse to lose his footing and fall. There's something almost funny about this one, about watching these mice, clumsy, ridiculous, twisting with the log. This trap is especially effective. In the sped up footage, you watch 26 separate mice fall for the trap in one night, and you begin to look at the whole thing as a game. 26 mice is a shocking number, but it also feels arbitrary, meaningless. Just how infested is this old barn? How many mice occupy its walls and scurry on its floors? It could be a million for all you know. Perhaps the Mousetrap man feeds and nourishes the mice, breeds them so he can later trap them. One night, 26 mice, a new record. It makes sense that your husband would enjoy a thing like that. Still, if this is a game, it is a game about death, that respirates with death. In fact, death is a problem for the Mousetrap man. As it turns out, this video you now watch, the rolling log one, is a remake. Years ago, he made a video about the same trap. In it, he showed the drowned mice at the bottom of the bucket, and YouTube took the video down because it broke with their terms of service. Now, the dead mice are largely hypothetical, lingering on the margins of the work, an afterthought. It must be strange, you think, to be a mouse in an old infested barn, to fall to the bottom of the bucket and see 10 mice who, just like you, fell prey to the same beautiful trick. The trap only works because mice cannot call out to each other, because they cannot give warnings or do not care to do so, because mice are so desperately, desperately alone. It is getting late. Your husband moves to leave the bed as he always does at this time of night. You think to stop him, to ask him one more time what he sees in this kind of video, but you wouldn't know what to say, and in any case, you already know whatever answer he could tell you. You are into Mousetrap YouTube.